Hello and welcome to the Spotlight on Atlantic Television. My name is Eudora Kelly. On this show, we'll be addressing topical issues that affect the nation. Stay tuned and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Today I have with me Mr. Omoyele Sowore, the presidential candidate for the African Action Congress. You're welcome, sir, to the Spotlight.
Thank you for bringing me.
You have been in the news lately and blowing up the social media space currently with the stuff you talked about, the Labour Party candidate. That has caused a lot of waves in the social media space. Just trying to get your feel of that. Some people have said that it's more or less like sour grapes, that you just hit out at him because you feel like the youth movement should have been with you rather than on the other side of the divide. What do you say to that?
Well, that's completely incorrect. In election seasons, you sell your manifestos, you sell your ideas, you sell your personality, and you also critique your opponents. That's how it is done world over. So I have no reason to feel that it's sour grapes. If I win the election, I'll be presiding over Nigeria, and I will preside over those who agree with me and those who disagree and those who might criticize me. I find it a bit awkward or odd that people who know who I am criticize military and civilian leaders, I criticize people in the public sector and the private sector, would think that I will keep quiet over any issue. I talk about issues that affect me, I talk about issues that don't affect me. It's within my rights. But most importantly, we're talking about Nigeria here, and we have had experiences in the past where candidates are packaged and made to look like people who should not be questioned. If this time around you see that happening, you have a duty to raise your voice. I have spent my entire life promoting freedom of speech. But coming to the youth, I don't know where the polling was done to say that anybody has the support of the youth, because there are 18 political candidates and all of them have got their supporters. In fact, if you want to talk about who are following, who's got more support from the youth, you want to talk about the big legacy parties, APC and PDP, because when you see their rallies on TV, you see youth there, plenty of them. So, but I understand that, we're at a stage where people are also learning. They're learning and getting used to how politics is conducted.
How do you think 2023 is going to pan out different from 2019? Because we're aware that you participated in the general elections,
yes,
the presidential elections in 2019.
Yes.
So what is new? What do you bring new to the table?
In 2019, and I say categorically here and boldly, that it was not an election, it was selection. The ruling party and their partners in the electoral umpire, INEC, allocated votes to the person who won, and then they allocated votes to the rest of us who lost. So
can you really say allocated votes? Because
yes,
we saw the process, we saw people go out in the field, and we saw people cast their votes. So to cast aspersions on the process and say it was a selective process, is that not and a process you're still putting yourself through? Is that not casting aspersions on the umpire?
No, I'm not casting aspersions on the umpire. I'm telling you the truth. The truth that had been told several times by even those who came and observed the elections. They said this election did not meet international standards. It's the truth that I've told, not just in person, in front of TV or in an interview. I told this truth in an affidavit when I was arrested, questioned as to why I said Buhari did not win the election. I swore to an affidavit before a law court in Nigeria that I participated in the election and this man did not win the election. Win this last election. So to your question about why young people will turn to me, after the election in 2019, I'm the only candidate that didn't go into oblivion, did not disappear into the thin air. I started immediately to mobilize young people particularly.
And we remember you went out with the Revolution Now.
Yes.
And what was Revolution Now all about?
It was to bring about new consciousness that people have been shortchanged and they should fight back, and that this country needs to be turned around completely. And I was arrested for leading a revolution.
When you say revolution, do you say tongue-in-cheek, or did you mean that you wanted a change of government, or what did you mean when you said revolution now?
I wanted a change of everything: government, culture, our tradition, our complacency, our servitude. I want the chains to be broken completely. I never recanted, even when I was arrested, brought before a judge. When I didn't recant, they came and abducted me before a judge. So I spent 5 months in detention. They kept asking me the same question every day. Have you recanted? They even sent a delegation to me that I should come and apologize to the president, Muhammadu Buhari, for calling for a revolution. I said I cannot apologize because my position remains the same. So how can it be tongue-in-cheek?
What kept you going through that period when you were incarcerated in DSS custody? What kept you going? What kept you not turning back and giving up?
I had conviction. I didn't just decide one day that I want a revolution. I also had taken into consideration that it would have repercussions and consequences. And when it came, it wasn't difficult to handle it. I spent most of my time in detention in solitary confinement. The only companions I had were those who came around detention as myself, and the officers were guarding me who talked to me once in a while. And then I have 1 hour to go get food and they take me back inside daily for close to 5 months. So
what did this do to your mental health through this period?
Mental health inside jail in Nigeria is better than the one outside. Nigeria is an open prison. So everybody is mentally challenged, but it's just the vagaries of life. I was able to rest. I was able to think. I was able to read. I read over 30 books. It just made me sharper. It strengthened me. It made me understand the world more because I read books about experiences of other people who've been in that particular condition that I was put in by the government. So I was happy that my eyes opened to things that I didn't know about Nigeria up to that point. I'm not saying that I didn't know Nigeria enough, but every country has
its peculiarities.
There's an outside and there's an inside.
Okay.
So I saw more of the inside because the DSS controls the inside of the Nigerian security apparatus.
So you think it was a learning process for you?
Nobody stops learning, but it wasn't a learning process.
One you would have willingly submitted yourself to.
It wasn't like there was nothing to really learn. It was something to grasp and understand better more. Because learning would mean that it sat me down, whether by force or by, voluntarily, and started teaching me stuff. I didn't learn anything because they themselves don't know anything. I found out. They have no idea what they're doing there, other than the use of force and just ensuring that they extract conformity from you. And I'm a non-conformist since I was a child. And
you more or less came out of that process and you got into the web of the judiciary, so to speak. And how has that been? You've never experienced, I'm sure, the judiciary on that side of it being now confined to Abuja, not being allowed to leave Abuja for some years, and
I've actually been, I've seen it, I've had judicial experiences before. I was a student leader who went
student
in and out
activist.
Yes, went in and out of detention during the military era. And, they'll detain you and then put you in front of a judge. Mostly magistrates across Nigeria. But this one, I had to go through quite a number of judicial processes that also opened my eyes to, the issue of justice in the country, judicial justice, and a lack of it. Beside that, apart from the government coming after me, there were a lot of cases that were filed against me, a lot of civil cases. There were also attempts to reinstate some cases, then they recruited individuals to also start filing both civil and criminal cases against. As of a week ago, I was before another judge in Abuja. They were trying to charge me for an offense I had no idea how it came about. Some billionaire or so-called billionaire, got me arrested and said Sahara reporters wrote a story against them and that they thought I was involved in it. And they were trying to charge me for cyber stalking.
Has this more or less taken your eye off the ball of creating awareness since 2019 up until now, when you would have really been, say, building your structures, so to speak, in preparation for 2023? Has this more or less distracted you, all your judicial cases that you've had to go through and been confined to the city of Abuja, not being able to reach out to the interiors of Nigeria? You know how big Nigeria is, the landmass, the population, being able to create awareness for AAC and get people to know that there's a party like this, to send your message right down, because we hear about structure, and structure really is about people, and as well as having representatives in all the polling units, more or less, or in the local governments, in all the little nooks and crannies of the country.
No. In fact, this last 3 years has been one of my best in organizing. I organized Revolution now in 2019. I remember it happened 2 days after I was arrested. The protests went ahead. After that, I started organizing other protests, organizing around social justice issues. I was part of the major organizers that started NSAS. So each of these protest movements that emerged really throughout that period, they created their own structures. The consciousness that we are seeing now started because some people, mostly myself and my team members, started challenging the status quo. And some of the youths who were afraid finally discovered that, oh no, you can go out there and challenge government. And that was what brought about Nigeria's most powerful social upheaval of all times, known as NSAS, which was mistaken at the beginning for some anti-police brutality protests. No, it was a dynamic response to the rot in the system. Had that social upheaval been better managed, it would have led to the revolution I was calling for. But even though it did not happen in form of a physical revolution, you can tell now that all of the consciousness we are saying about we don't want these old people and all that came from that process. So a lot of structures were created, a lot of familiarity were made with the grassroots. People keep saying Nigeria is big. Nigeria is not even as big as Alaska, which is one state in the US. Nigeria is 75% of, Texas, the state of Texas, 75% of Nigeria. Nigeria is just twice the size of California.
But it's the biggest, most populous black nation
population, yes,
on earth.
Land size,
And,
Nigeria is not as big as Congo. So I am just saying that don't let us exaggerate beyond proportion a problem that is not as big as it is. But there is a saying that, if you have no fingers, right, handling a cup of milk becomes a problem. So it is just what it is. That period of 3 years being restricted to this Abuja, I participated in every protest. I even organized what we call Buhari Must Go at the time, that spread to churches, mosques. So we were building and we kept building social consciousness. We kept building soldiers that could confront the oppressive system, because we haven't had this back since the days of military rule, as you know. So my answer to you is that if there was no distraction of any kind, if anything happened to me, it was just like my ability to multitask were enhanced by restriction and all of the things that they did to me. And there's nobody who can claim that they don't know me or they don't know our political party. I don't say all over the country. Don't forget, in addition to restricting me to Abuja, the political party AAC was also hijacked by the government using some elements.
Those were some internal divisions within your party.
Yes, it was created by the government. But we went to court. We kept fighting in the courtrooms until 3 weeks ago. That process was reversed and we are totally back in control of our political party. We've had primaries now, and I've emerged by consensus as the presidential candidate of the party.
Don't you think that your call for revolution, some people might see it as you're the same person that's calling for a revolution, you're the same person that's saying the process in 2019 was far from transparent, and you're still the same person that is willing to put yourself through a political process again. Isn't that at variance with the call for revolution? Some people might say, oh, you just like to muddy the waters. You're not really ready for a real political fight.
No, if anybody says that about me, they have the wrong person they're referring to. The French Revolution took 10 years of continuous activities, but when they put it in a book, you just heard the French Revolution, think it happened overnight. Sometimes participation in all these processes is a way of transparently showing to the people that some of the issues you believe in, some of these things that are disguised to you as a solution to your problem cannot solve your problem. And I'm a non-violent fighter. Right? I do not believe in violence. The revolution I was calling for is a surgical, one-time revolution. And I have never
revolutions all over the world, most often than not, have been violent upheavals.
Yes, it's because of the way those we are trying to displace respond.
Do you think that you have reached minds, hearts and souls of Nigerians, where they would come out and some print for AAC? And what would you say AAC represents to give the new generation of Nigerians? What's the turnaround that AAC promises?
AAC is the only party today whose manifesto is available online that you can find. If I ask you what is the manifesto of the APC, I guarantee you have never seen it before.
We have something right now online from APC and the PDP. They both have some manifestos from
some.
Yeah, we have something.
Our own is not some. It's a holistic manifesto on how to turn around Nigeria. It's called Spicer Heat, which starts from security, how we want to turn around the power sector, infrastructural investment in education, agriculture, how technology will serve as a base upon which all of these programs will be handled. We talk about minimum wage. APC doesn't have a minimum wage for you. PDP doesn't have a minimum wage for you. We talk about the number. We've broken it down to the number of gallons of water that can service this country on a daily basis.
How do you intend to deal with security? You don't have a security background, and people feel that it will take having a security background or somebody that has been in an executive capacity to be able to handle security. And we know what's happening in the country right now. From north to south to east to west, insecurity has more or less ravaged every sector of the country.
You know the contradiction, the question you're asking, that the man who was a major general in the army is running the worst security era in the history of Nigeria, apart from the Civil War. So what is his background? What does his security background has to do with it? And it is because people have a narrow understanding of security. They think that security is about carrying guns around and asking soldiers to beat up people, or asking police to chase down.
But you must agree that he was not the one that started off with the insecurity in the Northwest. He did meet the insecurity when he came into power.
So he met insecurity in the Northwest, Northeast.
Yes.
He added banditry in the Northwest, kidnappers in the South, or everywhere. He added armed robbers to it. He now added herdsmen to it. So you met one and you added four. Who do I blame for that? The man who is in executive capacity of dealing with security. So the reason I'm trying to explain to you that security is way more than just the physical security. There's the issue of social and economic security. There's homeland security. These days, there's cyber security. These guys you are mentioning don't have an idea of how these things work or interact to protect a country. So having been a major general in the army is just one part of how to fight security.
What are you going to do differently is more or less what I'm asking.
That's where I was going to go. Is that we will have to start protecting this country by ensuring that there's economic and social security for the people. Most of the problems we are facing now are happening because when people graduate from school or don't go to school, they have nothing to live on. So crime has become very lucrative. That's just one part of it. But in countries or a country that takes care of its own people, both young and old, by providing them proper education, providing employment, you solve 50% of this problem, right? By doing the right things, ensuring that what belongs to the people, young or old, they get it. Then you can then move to the next level, which is equipment, motivation, training for your soldiers, or having the right number of security agencies that are not protecting VIPs but protecting society. And then you can then move from there to ensuring that you use intelligence, cooperation, both local and international, to detect and nip crime in the bud before they happen. And then you can then move from there, right, to start talking about cyber security and having more robust policy of who do you protect first. Are Nigerians to be protected? How do you have a border that is not porous, that anybody can just walk in to?